So we'll stay in the web authoring part, and
it will be me again.
it will be Cristian. Because we try to respond to the question, does the web author work with my documents, I mean your documents, basically? So that's what Cristian tries to answer next.
Yeah, so basically I'm trying to bridge the gap between what we show at the conference is that a couple of use cases for web author with GitHub or with Jira and all these use cases, and your actual documentation ecosystem, which may not contain GitHub or Jira, or it may be entirely different. And the basic question is, can web author work in my content ecosystem as it does in your presentations? So a content ecosystem contains services, workflows, document formats, and conventions. For example, you have a file storage service, which can be a CMS or a versioning system. You have user management. You have workflows for review, for external contributions. You have document formats, which is DITA, DocBook, XHTML, and you have conventions. You have a style guide, you have linguistic conventions, you have markup conventions. And in order to create a smooth web authoring experience that anyone in the company or in the organization can embrace, all the editing tool has to be integrated with all these services. Otherwise, it can prove not to be effective. Although the web editing it's a nice idea, if it's not well integrated, it's just useless sometimes. So I will show you some examples of sweet spots for integrating web author to each of these types of components in a content ecosystem. And I will start with file storage integration. One easy way to integrate it with any type of file storage is to use oXygen XML collaboration platform that me and Alex just presented. It has workflows tailored for external users. Currently, it has this review workflow. We plan to add more types of workflows, and is CMS agnostic. It works basically with every file storage. You just have to have oXygen open and to be able to drag and drop files. oXygen XML editor is basically the bridge between the CMS and the collaboration platform, and the editor already works with the CMS because otherwise you wouldn't use it. So this is like a decoupled solution where reviewers and external users are not touching the file storage. Sometimes you want them to actually work directly in the file storage if you can trust them, or yeah. And I will show you a demo. So the first use case is if your storage system has WebDAV support. Many CMSs have WebDAV support. There's WebDAV support in the Apache server, in IIS, and also in the box.com, which is a cloud-based file storage system. And just because it's very easy to use, I will demo that for you. So first of all, I will have to set some things up. So I have to stop this. And so while the thing is stopping, I can go to box.com to show you. It's similar to Dropbox. So here are some files that I added at some point. Here is the usual oXygen flowers project, and now I need to start a local web author. Okay, so now if I want to, so this is a local installation of the web author, and I want to configure it for users to be able to access files from their box.com accounts. So what I have to do is to go to the administration page. I have to log in, and then go to the WebDAV connector, which is connecting web author to any WebDAV enabled server. And here I have to enter the address of the box.com WebDAV API. This is available on their website, so I just have to click apply, and then when I'm back on the dashboard, I can click on open a file on WebDAV, and it already asks me to log in. And now I can browse for files. I can open the flowers data map on box.com. So I can click to open topics. So basically, this was just an example of how easy it is to integrate WebAuthor with a CMS or file service that already has a WebDAV interface. It's just going to the administration page and writing the URL of the server there. And you have seen that I can browse for the files that I want to open. We also have autosave, so if I write here Prague to 2017, in a couple of seconds the document will be saved automatically. You see, it's already saved. And all this feature you get just by changing one configuration line. Another use case that it's simple to integrate is with a Git repository. We have support for any type of Git repository over HTTPS, which includes Bitbucket, GitLab, and we also have an enhanced support for GitHub. For example, I will show you how this works with Bitbucket. So first I will log in with my username and password. And then I have to go to Bitbucket, to the repositories page, and here I'm logged in with another user, so I have to log out. Okay, so here I have the flowers repository again. Here is the address of the server. I can go and go back here and use it in the web author. It already detects the branches in that repository. I can click browse. The first time I use it, it clones the repository locally, and then I can open the data map, then open some file, and I will also be able to commit that. So for this integration, I didn't have to do any kind of configuration. Just the user will have to copy the URL of the repository every time they need to access some files. Let's say I can say here is to commit Prague. And then at some point we'll be able to see a new version on Bitbucket. So here it's the commit appeared on the Bitbucket repository. On the other hand, for GitHub, we have a better integration. For example, I can log out here and I can click login with GitHub, and we have support for single sign-on. So it doesn't ask me it asks me to authenticate only the first time. So the first time I had to authorize the application, but the second time I'm using the login with GitHub button, it will just work. So I'm logged in and I can now see one of my repositories. It detected the branches. And we also have a better support for the GitHub pull request workflows. So if I'm connecting to a repository that I don't have access to, and I don't know, let's say I delete something here and then I try to commit, it will, it doesn't matter, it will ask me to create a pull request like I showed you previously. So for GitHub we have enhanced support. So for Git, the problem is also solved. What I didn't show you is how to configure the GitHub connector. So we should just go to the administration page, plugins, Git plugin, and then there are these two secret codes that GitHub will provide you if you register your web author with GitHub. You just have to fill in this form. They will give you those two numbers and you have to enter them here. So this time it's 2 lines of configuration. Now another use case is for teams that use SVN. So the current status is that there is a server.com/svn. A technical writer uses the oXygen XML editor and our Subversion client to connect to this server. And the only thing that you need to do in order to enable support for web author is to configure the SVN server with SVN auto versioning, which means that if someone saves the file using web author, it will just commit that without a commit message. And that might sound like a problem in the first place, but I will show you the entire demo, and you'll see that it's not such big of a problem compared to how easy to set up it is. So I have a local SVN server which is this setting enabled, and what I need to do is to go again to the WebDAV connector and right here localhost. Okay, and now, so this is the only configuration that I need to do for web author. Now coming back to seeing the things from the perspective of a technical author, you might have a local checkout of the Flowers project. This is the SVN repository. In the trunk you have this project and you want to send that for review. I already have that. I already did that while rehearsing for this demo. So I have this okay. was okay. So on the trunk I have this flowers project, and if I want to send it for review, I will just need to create a folder here, call it review Latin names, and then copy this file, this project folder, the flowers project. I will copy it to this newly created folder. Copy. I have to enter a commit message, which doesn't matter right now. Okay, so now we have created basically a branch of the project, which is intended to be edited by reviewers. Actually, I can go in the admin page and so here I configure the URL on the server that will be available for reviewers. So I will let them only affect the branches folder, let's say, or you can create a subfolder of that. And if you click apply, now anyone that I remember the password. Anyone that opens Web Author will just see those folders which are created inside the branches folder. I can now, as a reviewer, let's say I can go again to the topics, care.data. I can open it, make some changes, save the document. Oh, it will be actually saved automatically. And then a new version will appear on the SVN server. So right now the latest version doesn't have a commit message. Actually, it has a default commit message, but it is not that important because I know that only the reviewers changed the files which was on the branch, and I can also turn on track changes, so I can track their changes without using the SVN history. And now I can, I don't know, I can try to merge the branch that I send for review using the normal SVN merging process. Review, so this one, merge. Okay, and now I can show the modified files, and I can see that a reviewer changed the, it's not a good idea to maximize things. A reviewer added something, so I can decide whether to commit that change or to reword something and commit at the end. Or I can bring that change. You know, I already brought this change to my working copy. I can go to the author and then just write something, just reword the thing and commit at the end. So okay, start. So again, it's the configuration was basically already there. What I had to do was to configure the URL of the SVN server in Web Author and to change one line in the server configuration, and we have access to an SVN based workflow. We also have out-of-the-box support for SharePoint. We support single sign-on, so you log into SharePoint and then use Web Author without logging in. You just have to, like in the GitHub case, you have to approve Web Author to modify your documents. And we also support the check-in, check-out workflow. If you try to save a file which was not checked out, we will show you a message. We have dedicated buttons for that. And we also have a partnership with Data Exchange. If you need more features than SharePoint offers for your project, at some point they basically build a CMS on top of SharePoint. So it's an option to consider as the project evolves. Another option is that you don't have any versioning system, you don't use SharePoint, your CMS doesn't have a WebDAV interface, because WebDAV in general is a complex protocol and we basically use just a few of its functions. For that we created a REST API which brings all the features and all the functionality that you have for the WebDAV servers, and also single sign-on, and it is easier to customize the file browser. For example, some of our users don't have a folder structure for their files. They just use a search or something, or they just choose labels for the files and then I don't know. So the endpoints are basically, there is an endpoint for opening and saving files. You have to implement just 2 HTTP methods. There are another 3 HTTP endpoints to be implemented to enable the built-in file browser. And you can also use your custom file browsing widget. This is very simple to use by CMSs that don't have a WebDAV interface and that are not developed using Java technology, because this API doesn't have to do anything with Java. It's just the API can be implemented in whatever language you want. And we are actually using this API to integrate Web Author with a collaboration platform. So it's pretty well tested integration. And if you happen to encounter a problem, most likely we also encounter that and we are able to help. Okay, so as a conclusion for the file storage integration, we have a couple of CMSs that have an integration with us. They are listed on our website. We have WebDAV support. If the CMS is extendable with the REST API that we proposed, the problem is also solved. GitHub or Git server, SVN server or SharePoint are all covered. Another use case, now moving on from the file storage, you need also to integrate Web Author with your workflows. And the main way to integrate Web Author in a workflow is to add an edit link at the right moment. We tried that in the Jira issues. In the CMS context menus, you just right-click on a file and click Edit with Web Author. Or even in the published content, as Alex showed you. And I'm also going to show you that this kind of links are also can also be embedded in a PDF document, in a PDF output. So this is the oXygen user manual, and here is the PDF documentation, and we added edit on GitHub links for every topic that is presented here, and it basically takes you to the Web Author. Lost my presentation. Okay, now those edit links have the following structure. So the REST endpoint is the URL of the dashboard, and then it has a couple of query parameters. First is the file URL, the URL of the data map that is used as the context, and the name of the author that will be editing the file. So here I included some of the examples of how you can construct the URL of the file, knowing how it looks like in your browser window. For example, this is for GitHub. The URL on top is what you see when you open the file on GitHub in your browser, and the one at the bottom is what you will give to Web Author. And the same for WebDAV and SharePoint. So it's quite simple to create them. Another aspect of integrating Web Author, it's integrated it with document formats. First of all, it works with oXygen Author frameworks. So if you have a framework for oXygen Author desktop version, it will also work with the web editor. You might have to tweak several things. There are a few items in CSS compatibility where there is a difference, but it's just a couple of lines of CSS usually. We do that for our built-in frameworks. And we also have an add-on for oXygen XML Author desktop version that helps you customize frameworks for Web Author. And I'm going to show that to you. So there is a button here, Start Web Author Server, which basically starts a local instance of Web Author, and it gives you actions to open the files that you have in Author, to open it also in the Web Author, to see how it looks like. And as an example customization, I will show you this project that George presented several years ago. So this is a sample project for editing some documentation, some legal document. This is in the Web Author. So here I can enable full tags to see better the structure of the document. So the root element is EULA. I can go to the CSS and add a rule. Saying that this is some CSS trick saying that the document should be centered and the maximum width should be 800 pixels. And then I can also add a border, 1 pixel solid black. So the page layout, it's even more apparent. I can also say that I want a padding of 20 pixels, and going back I see that the padding was applied. I can also say that the document should have a background color light gray, and the root element should have a background color which is white. So I can also add a margin left 200 pixels. So now the page layout is much nicer than before, just with a couple of lines of CSS. And now I can open it in the browser and see that basically the layout is the same. So you basically got an idea about how easy it is to change the look of the document and quickly test that in Web Author. And now basically the same framework will work with the desktop version of oXygen and with Web Author. Slideshow, start from concept. Okay, I'm quite behind of schedule, so I will drop some of the demos. I want to also show you how Web Author supports your conventions about the content. So your contributors may respect the document format, but they still have to adhere to a couple of conventions that you are using in the documentation. In the example that I will show you, they have, for example, a rule that every code block must not start with a command prompt, because users are most likely to copy paste things, and if the command prompt is in front of the command, the pasted thing will not work. So instead, one approach is to have everyone read the documentation style guide before making a contribution, but this will make the learning curve very steep, and it will probably discourage most of the contributors. And another approach is to warn them about the conventions as they happen to break them. And with Web Author, you can enable this kind of checks using our schematron support, and you can also propose fixes for them, so that users, when they break some kind of convention with a simple click, then they can get back to a document that adheres to the conventions. And I had some links here or not. So I will take as an example the Kubernetes documentation. So they have the documentation written in Markdown, and actually it's a very good documentation, and for each topic they also have these edit links. But instead of taking you to the editor, they show you a page with a couple of links about things that you should or shouldn't do while writing the document. And at this point, most of the people will probably just go to edit without reading anything and just break the laws. For example, they have some rules that the inline code shouldn't be quoted, but instead it should be marked up with code elements in Markdown. Another rule is that the comments shouldn't start with a $, which is the command prompt. And the third rule, for example, is to separate the command from its output. So a code block with more than one line includes also the output of the command, so it may be a problem. And what I did is that I searched for I just picked some document, and the first document that I picked was not respecting those rules. And I converted that to a data topic, so that I can show you how Web Author would handle this situation. So basically, in the first paragraph, there is a command that it's contained between quotes. Again, I have to restart the server. In oXygen, when you switch projects, the frameworks are changed automatically, and the Web Author plugin doesn't pick them up. Sorry? Oh, it's already there? Okay. Okay, so at some point we'll have the documentation results, the validation results. We also have a plugin for acrolinks, which also checks for, sorry? They have a plugin for Web Author. There is a plugin for for Web Author, and the acrolinks plugin checks for a different kind of problems. For example, they said that we should avoid modal verbs like should, and they also give you information about why you are not allowed to use modal verbs and how you can replace those words with something different. So you get warned about breaking this convention as you type it. We also have this validation view, which is detected that minikube start is a command, and you should use the code style for inline code and commands. And we have a fix for that, so it gets automatically replaced. Again, this code block starts with a command prompt, and oXygen is able to just remove it, and then it detects that the command and the output should not be in the same code block, and it offers to split that for you. So if you have this kind of editing interface, you are less likely to break the conventions that the content uses. Okay, so I just showed you a couple of simple things that you can do to integrate Web Author with different parts of the content ecosystem. For some people, even a simple integration like this would be enough, and for others, this simple integration is still useful to be used as the minimum viable product that you can demo to the clients. Then you can gather more precise requirements after they play a little bit with the system. And after that, the best way to proceed is to have a technical discussion with oXygen to estimate the complexity of the user requirements, to be able to prioritize them better. And it also helps us to treat your questions in context. Because sometimes when you ask a question, there may be 5 different possible answers, and if we know the full context, we can give you the simplest and most effective one for you. And after this detailed discussion, we can still collaborate over the email on our support email address, and at some point you should go back to demo to the clients and gather another set of requirements and continue everything. So this presentation is also done. So I'm here for questions.
Yes.
Actually, I think the presentation didn't answer the original question at all. Can oXygen Web Author work with my documents? So I was expecting an answer to that. If there are any limitations where the web author shouldn't be used, technical limitations like maybe large documents or usability issues like copy-paste or something. Are there some types of documents where you really recommend using web author?
Theoretically, it can be used with any. So you're saying about large documents. We support large documents, but to some limits. For example, before moving to Dita, our user manual was like a 3 megabytes docbook chunk, and that has some problems in Web Author. We are working to make that better, even in those cases. But anyway, the trend is to move to modular documentation, and we are focused more on that, to topic-based documentation. Regarding copy-paste, the copy-paste functionality works. We have support for copying from Word documents or from HTML documents. This support is configurable at the framework level. For Dita docbook and for the built-in frameworks, is already there. For other frameworks, it's something that you need to tweak yourself or to completely re-implement.
So that copy-paste support that Christy talks about does an automatic conversion of the content to the actual XML format. And for that, we need to have, oXygen needs to have those conversion scripts, which are built with XSLT mainly for docbook, Dita, and so on. But you can provide the same for your own XML format. In terms of large documents, that depends also on the browsers. We experience problems with the generated documentation, for instance, for XML schema. So we generate HTML documentation, but for a large schema, the browser will not be able to render that page. On the server side, oXygen should not have big issues with the larger documents because it's the same core functionality that we have in the desktop version of oXygen. There's no difference on that side.
Yeah, basically for large documents, the browser is not able to handle them. So what we can do is to feed the browser parts of them at a time, like having other parts collapsed, so the browser doesn't have to deal with that.
I mean, you said that Christy didn't answer at all the initial question, but I think you covered, if you have your documents on the storage that can be accessed either through WebDAV or Git or somehow, or even if you do not have that, we have that REST API which basically provides 3 entry points that you can implement with any language that you want. Right? And then you can have those documents accessible in the Web Author, either through a browsing interface, but you can also integrate in the workflow, creating those links that allow users to just follow the link to access the document. Any other questions?
Okay.
Thank
you.
And I think we can enjoy lunch and break.